I couldn't resist this. I thought I wanted to make a quick video on a response I got from a mentally ill patient that escaped the asylum. And you know, this is something part of YouTube, I guess. YouTube invites that sort of fringe candidate that never actually made much of their life, and they feel empowered by ridiculing, attacking, abusing, using vulgarities, being sort of obscene and ugly and stupid. And this is something that is obviously attracting, YouTube is attracting this kind of an individual. And like I said before, I don't get a lot of views, so I'm sure other YouTubers are much more afflicted by this. You know, people that step out and are actually making a difference on the planet, and they're making their statements, and they attract, you know, responses from people. And this one, Goat's Tog or something, like, you know, these people can't even come up with a reasonable name on YouTube. Okay, don't use your name on YouTube, I understand that, but make it so that it works, it flows, it has like a meaning as you say it, you know, as you try to represent yourself. It's like this confusion, this mental confusion comes out in the title that you have on your YouTube channel. So when you create a channel and it's completely confusing how to say it, it's probably the person is mentally ill. This is what YouTube attracts. You can't avoid that. So anyway, what I'll talk about just briefly, this is what happens a lot. As a painter, I get this quite a bit, that people respond to me and they use a standard that has been established in history back to, I guess, mostly the Renaissance, an area of art that I'm not really that connected to as a painter. I appreciate the power of the Renaissance, but I also realize that unless you know what you're looking at, you're going to be distracted and seduced by it. So as a painter, I've understood that the Renaissance is not what it appears to be. It was a diversion, taking us away from a source, something that we've always felt but we gave up, to the elites. The Renaissance were decorators for the elites. That's how the whole game started, to decorate for the elites. Now there have been artists all the way through that bucked that trend. Goya, very important in that trend. He bucked the elites. He was employed by the elites, but at the same time, he actually confronted and exposed them. Now coming back to this Goat's log guy, mentally ill guy who escaped the asylum, saying to me, and this is something that's happened, you know, people come to my shows occasionally and they get, you know, generally they behave themselves for the most part. I can't say I had a lot of it, but it comes back to me that, you know, my 6-year-old could do it. Have you ever heard that argument? My 6-year-old could do it. Happens a lot. It's like the monkey dribbling paint on the surface. He referred to my paintings as the blobs on, you know, the thing. My 6-year-old could do it. Now, my feeling about that, all these people, all you people out there that look at art from the perspective of the Renaissance, obviously, you've picked a standard. You've picked a standard. You have said, I have understood the meaning of the universe based on the standard established during the Renaissance. That's what you're doing. Even though you don't know it, you're not art historians, but you actually are using a standard that was established back in the Renaissance, that was reinforced by the camera, an instrument, a mechanical instrument that reproduces the universe as it appears to us. Now, I've always said the universe is not what it appears to be. Whole other story. Now, to all you armchair critics of artists, those of you who are so clued in to how a work of art is made, I'm going to explain this very simply to you. And The simplest explanation, well, number one, a friend of mine, a really, really good artist, John McGregor, Canadian artist, was my teacher. I haven't talked to him for a while, but it doesn't make him any less of an artist. He always said to me, you know, when people respond to you in this sort of manner where they say, oh, my kid could do it, he said, what I reply to them is that you have a very, very low opinion of your children. And, you know, in order to ridicule an artist by saying my kid could do it, it actually reflects back on you. You have a very low opinion of your children. And I will add to that and say, you actually have a very low opinion of yourself. And the reason I say that is because in order for anyone to be able to make a valuable criticism of something, there has to be some expertise. And to look at the Renaissance and say that's how art should look is not a valid, it's not being an expert, it's not being understanding something. Now here's where something transcends from being a creative person to becoming original. Now this is something I've brought up a few times in my videos, that creativity, invention is part of creativity, to be inventive, but it's not all. It's not all that's required, especially in art. In art, there is a sense of being original that gives impetus to what it is that we're doing. Art requires originality. Now, throughout the history, this is why the floodgates have opened with pretense and ersatz originality with video art and installation art, and you can, you know, assemble incredible different diverse materials and appear very original, but I'm telling you it's not original, because it's been done. It's been done many times before. And the people that most likely were doing it before you were doing it, if this is what you're involved in, are called Dada. Dadaists. The Dadaists were involved in performance art, in assembling things, disparate things, and putting them together. There are the Futurists, the Constructivists, people that were involved at the turn of the century, of the last century, 20th century, producing quite extraordinary visions of the world that opened us to what I believe to be the fractal reality of understanding our existence, our world. Now, the idea of criticizing an artist based on what it is that you as a critic have understood, what standard are you using? When you're criticizing someone and this individual is producing work that is highly original, you have no standard to go by, really. The artist does. The artist does have a reference, being historically oriented. The good artists are all historically oriented, and they have a reference point. And the originality that comes out of the work is referenced to history. And I'll give my case, you know, Buddy said that, the mentally ill Buddy said that his kid could do it, which says more about him than about me, that you can always jump on the wagon. Let's say that I have certain people that used to come to my studio who were great lovers of Warhol. They thought of themselves as collectors. And it turns out that in the early 80s, they had the opportunity to buy a Marilyn, one of the silkscreen Warhols, for $5,000, which are now selling for 30, 40, 50, 60 million dollars. I'm not sure what. If money makes any difference, it doesn't, I don't care. Warhol has his place. It's not enough to verbalize your commitment to art and understanding. You have to step behind it. Make the purchase, make the buy. Endorse the artist, create support systems. Now, from the critical point of view again, the artist, for example, I'll pick Warhol, not one of my favorite artists, but I'll pick Warhol, and here's a person who actually established a way of working as he created a standard in the way he worked. People look at the idea of screening paintings as a whole new way of expressing oneself as a painter, to screen something, and the way he worked. So it has a lot to do with, you can argue and criticize after the fact, but this is irrelevant. It's when you're actually doing it for the first time. You're the one doing this thing for the first time, and it seems perfectly normal and obvious to you, the critics, sitting back in their chair. Like a lot of the curators are pretending to be aware of art history and originality. Well, they don't know. They're always looking through a rearview mirror. And the only ones that are actually producing work that's worthwhile looking at are worthwhile looking at producing are, of course, the artists, but the artists that are doing something for the first time. First time in the context of all of history. 1,000 years, 6,000 years, 1,000,000 years. I don't know. I won't presume to go back that far because I don't know, maybe 1,000,000 years ago there was a generation of geniuses that, and if they didn't survive, they were screwed up. They made a mistake, so they didn't have the insight. Anyway, don't become a critic believing yourself if you've never done it and unable to identify what it is that you're looking at. You dismiss it on a standard that's irrelevant. The standard you're using is irrelevant, and you have a low opinion of yourself, and you have a low opinion of your children if you say my 6-year-old could do it.